essentially how they're, can we accuse these guys of collusion with this kind of public forum, WallStreetBets? And then the question becomes, well, okay, first of all, as it pertains to collusion, you have to show malintent and specific grouping and bundling of individuals saying, okay, we're gonna, for example, manipulate the order book by just going buying at this specific time and moving the price up and being rich, this, that, and the other. You have to prove that. But when it comes to whether these guys are colluding, should you be able to talk about investments, this, that, and the other, I think this debate is being misinterpreted, or at least misrepresented. And this is because of that. When it comes to communication between different investors and players in the market, that's been happening for a long time, since the 80s and the 90s on Wall Street. When they're even today, when it comes to like the Bloomberg terminal, you can go on if you have one, you can go on the Bloomberg terminal and go on chats with investment bankers and different finance professionals. You can go to ideas dinners, quote unquote, which investment professionals have. It's the same idea, it's the same premise, just on the internet and available to now everyone. Essentially, anyone who wants to join WallStreetBets or any other investment communities or public forums, they can. And this is the same as the tool of communication which investment banks and Wall Street has had. Just it's come about more recently than it has for Wall Street, which they've benefited from for a long time. And again, you're changing the name tags and labels of everything, but the basic mechanics of communication have been much longer present in Wall Street than they have been at WallStreetBets, for example, or Reddit. So that's a weak argument. And this is essentially the idea of technology now the internet at large, leveling the playing field in terms of communication, as I just mentioned. Then in terms of data as well, you could go onto Google and go onto different websites and essentially find yourself the access to whatever it is data you can imagine, like whatever filings, anything from the financial statements of these different companies to then specific reports and analysis on sites like Seeking Alpha or whatever it is that is mainstream or mainly used, let's say. And so there is access to communication, there is access to data, and now there's also access to markets in terms of like Robinhood and frictionless trading, and there's frictionless access to both communication, data, and markets because of technology and because of internet. And it's only been slowly catching on, but this is a big macro trend, big macro trend in terms of changing how the financial, how we function as humans, not only function as humans, but essentially the entire fundamental of finance, right? Because now everyone can communicate and group and talk and trade and learn, right? Learn, analyze, whatever it comes to that. Wall Street has had that because of agglomeration in terms of Wall Street itself. And, like I said, going out for coffees with different investment bankers and going on the Bloomberg terminals. Now everyone has it. And now this is essentially what the free market provides in terms of knowledge, right? Access to markets and then the ability to execute if you so please. I think also something else that's really important to talk about is the effect of the pandemic. Because like I said, this trend of retail outperforming, or at least doing much better than it has in the past and becoming more recognized in its successes, quote unquote successes, if that's how you define success, it's come about during the pandemic. And you have to realize now the landscape that people are playing in, especially because of COVID, you had a lot of people unemployed, maybe working part-time, maybe even just working from home, learning from home, online education like myself. I am, I'm a student and I've been learning from home. Some people might just have, in general, more time on their hands. Not only that, they need to make money, especially if you're working part-time or, you still got liabilities like education and university, you don't have a job, you're going to need to make income. Saving is not an option because saving hasn't been an option for a long time. And we've been even told this, not only by the low to negative interest rates, depending where you are in the world, but then also, hedge funds and investors and saying how we should invest in the stock market for guaranteed 8% annual returns, this, that, and the other. Well, then we have started doing that. And I say we, I'm not trying to become a populist here, but the idea is that you have to ask yourself, how many of these amateur, unsophisticated people with more time on their hands because of losing a job or working only part-time or learning from home, operating from home, how many of these people have actually spent the past year really learning their shit, really using the data that's available, finding these forums, improving their financial literacy, starting to trade, figure out a strategy that works. It has taken everyone by shock because of, let's say, short squeeze. And short squeezes have been around since shorts came about. This isn't anything new. This isn't a new invention. It's a reinvention, if anything. Because these are completely, when it comes to Wall Street Bets, these are like completely decentralized. Like they're all individuals. There's 7.5 individuals working together somehow. How do you do that? I mean, without getting into Homo sapiens and how essentially societies function, it is an incredible feat, and I guess one that wasn't imagined before that. Again, it's such an interesting social interaction, but it's come about because of, in my opinion, technology and the internet, and us as humans, kind of looking towards social interaction and coming together as a group, working together as a group, being in general cooperative bunch, and executing on this, right? So again, it comes to the idea of like, okay, you're calling these people amateurs and that, but these amateurs and unsophisticated investors have fucked you out of 10, 15 billion US dollars, right? And so, of course, hedge funds can cover this. There's no problem in, looking towards credit lines, this, that, and the other. Brokers, especially smaller, newer brokers, as Robinhood, that's a different topic and one that isn't insignificant. But again, also what's interesting that's been cited in Wall Street Bets, if you go on the subreddit and have been active at least over the past 2 weeks of this stuff happening, a lot of people have been citing the resentment that they have to not just the rich and the system and, like the Fed kind of printing money, whatever it is that might trigger some people or annoy some people, but even resentment to 07 and 08, that there were stories posted about some guy's father losing his business and forever since living a problematic lifestyle, essentially. And you saw a lot of people give their own stories, and fake or not, you want to assume that these stories are true and people are being genuine in what they're saying. That, of course, everything comes with a grain of salt, as we know. But nevertheless, it's the idea of like, okay, not only have people had the time and the actual kind of push towards learning this stuff and making money and figuring out the financial markets over the past year because of the pandemic, some people might have been working on this for a decade. Working on themselves, working on them skills. That's an interesting way of approaching this topic, and one that kind of sheds light, as opposed to what some people might assume in terms of these unsophisticated idiots just colluding, or manipulating the markets. Like, really, you're going to cry wolf with market manipulation? That's stupid and ignorant, and it's even offensive to the people who are listening. That's the kind of idiot that you take me for. Whatever.